Twitter was the first place. I wrote a ton there. I'd always loved writing. I was writing about things I knew and things I understood. And then as I expanded it, I was writing about things I was struggling with. It should really be things that like I am uniquely qualified to share. And that made a big difference.
I think you focused on Twitter first, and then you really started to compound. And so I want to dive into how that happened initially.
I was working in private equity, so I had no plans. Like I didn't know what the creator economy was. I didn't know what an influencer was other than like Kim Kardashian or whatever. COVID hit. I was kind of trying to like figure out what to do with my spare time. I was stuck at home. I had no social life, and I'd always loved writing. What I figured was like, this will be like an interesting hobby. And so I started doing it on the weekends. I had 500 followers at the time. This is like May of 2020. And it was very clear to me early on that there was like some pull for the stuff I was talking about. Originally, it was like finance explainers. Like I was kind of explaining finance topics in simple terms. It started taking off a little bit, and the like positive reinforcement I was getting encouraged me to do more of it. So on the weekends, I was spending a little more time on it, and it was continuing to go. But there was never like, oh, hey, I'm going to go become an influencer, or hey, I'm going to go become a creator and this is going to be a job, right? Like I had a lucrative job. I was doing well. I was on a good track. I didn't love it, but it was good. And you're getting patted on the back for being successful. For me, at least, one of the big takeaways was like, I never set out to become a creator. I was writing about things I knew and things I understood. And then as I expanded it, I was writing about things I was struggling with, like my own life experiences, problems I was wrestling with, and things like I was really learning by actually doing them in the real world. So I was never like, hey, I read this, in some book and I've never thought about it, and let me just like share it with you, or like, here are 10 TED Talks that'll change your life. Like my whole thing was always, if a 22-year-old kid with no life experience can do this same piece of content, I probably shouldn't share it. It should really be things that like I am uniquely qualified to share. And that made a big difference. So yeah, Twitter was the first place. I wrote a ton there. My general perspective was like, let me just figure out layers of depth. So if Twitter was like the most surface level, the next layer of depth would be newsletter. So I expanded to newsletter, grew that. Next layer of depth would be book. So I signed the book deal, working on that. And then expanding mediums and like expanding the surface area. So that's, with all the video stuff I do now and kind of growing from there.
You're spending at least 5,000 hours in the first year on this.
Yeah, it was, countless hours. Like there was no hack. People I constantly get asked like, oh, what was the hack? What was the growth hack? What was the, engagement groups? Like everyone wants to point to the thing that was like the hack. The hack was that I wrote 300,000 words on Twitter. Like I literally just wrote an unbelievable amount, and like some of it worked, some of it was duds, some of it was great, like some of it was medium, and that was the real thing. Was like I showed up every single week for long period of time. That was it.
You just got to do the work straight up. Got it. And then just to get a little more granular here, the threads, so you're doing 3 per week initially, you're working a full-time job. These have to be taking you a couple hours per thread?
Yeah, early on, each one was taking me at least 4 hours because I was doing a lot of research to make sure they were really good. I was like refining them a lot. I hadn't built the muscle yet, so it wasn't easy. It wasn't coming quickly.
You didn't have any followers, right? And I think you tweeted something, and then I think it was Chamath or something that shared it. Like, so how did the growth look in the first year?
I started at about 500 followers. I posted my first thread. Nothing happened for the first few hours. I commented it underneath something that Chamath posted. And this is before Chamath was like Chamath. He wasn't super famous yet. He had a decent following, but he wasn't enormous. It was before all the SPAC boom and stuff. I commented it underneath something that was related that he had said. He then shared my thing and said, this is good. That sort of spiked me to like 2,000 followers maybe. And that was kind of the start. I think by the end, that was May of 2020. By the end of 2020, I was probably at about 75,000 followers on Twitter. That was my only platform though. I didn't have anything else. And then by the time I quit my job, which was May of 2021, I was probably at about 175,000.
What was your initial cadence on Twitter? Because I think you are usually writing off the cuff. I think you're like, screw the content calendar. Like,
yeah, I can't do the content calendar. I'm terrible at doing things in advance. I just can't do it. Like I won't be able to motivate myself. And so I have to work from inspiration. It's like something I'm actually excited to write about. So originally I was probably writing about like 2 threads a week, and I was working a full-time job. So it was sort of like, that was all I could do. I don't think I ever really went more than that. And I just stuck to it. I never missed a week. Even still, I launched my newsletter May of 2021. I've sent 2 newsletters every single week since then. No Christmas off, no, holidays off, no birthday off. Like just have done it the entire way through. And that's kind of how I'm wired. Like when I get into something, I'm going to do this for 10 years. Like, I'm just going to do it. And that's the minimum amount of time that I'm committing to doing this. And it's either going to work after 10 years or it's not, but I'm not doing it for like 3 months and figure, and then just being like, didn't work. I want to learn and I want to get better at it and improve. So taking that long-term view was very important to me from the outset.
Where are you drawing the inspiration from, and what's like your content block in the morning, if you even have one?
Yeah. Every morning from 5 to 7:30 is when I create. It's the only time of day that I'm creative. It's before my son and wife wake up, get out of the cold plunge, which I do every morning religiously when I'm at home at least, and basically go sit down at my desk. And that's when I feel creative, and that's when I can create. That's been a lot of book writing, some newsletter writing, and then it's for the social platforms. What do I draw inspiration from? It's my own life. It's like literally things I'm reading, things I'm interested in, problems I'm struggling with, questions I'm asking myself, those kind of things. And that makes it authentic for me, where I feel like I can do it for a long period of time. And it means that it's unique. It's not something that anyone can do, because I might read a concept, think it's really interesting, but for me to write about it, then I need to place my own perspective and lens and like how I wrestled with it personally to be able to go share it. And that's the part that like you can't replicate. That's because that's me. That's my own unique view on it.
You have to either have original stories or experiences, or you have to have original data.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of my lamentation with the like creator world as it stands today, which like basically when I was getting started, creator or like influence, it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't like a career path, right? Like you could go make some money doing it short term, but it wasn't like, oh mom, I'm going to go become a creator. This is what I'm going to do. And so when I thought about it, it was all about like real experiences and authentic things that you were doing. Like you had to go do things in the real world and then you could talk about them.
Yeah.
Now there's like a lot of, I haven't done the thing, but I'm going to write about it, right? Like a business guru talking about business principles when they live in like a 500 square foot studio and they haven't made any money or had business success is weird. Like that's weird to me, right? Because then you're just like, what you're writing about like someone else's book, basically, if you haven't actually experienced or built the thing. And similarly, like if you're a fitness influencer and trying to build a fitness creator ecosystem, but you're not fit, like, why would I listen to you on that? Right. It's like a running influencer that doesn't have stats to back up the fact that they're a good runner. It's like, it's a weird thing that that now exists. And so like, if I give advice to anyone that wants to be a creator, it's like, go do the thing in the real world and talk about it along the way. Like you can talk about the journey of doing it and the experience and the struggle and the like successes and the failures. That's interesting content, because that's like the path that a lot of people are on. If you're talking about it like you've done it and you haven't done shit, that's just inauthentic, right? It's not real.
Grifter level.
Yeah, so it's not real.
Yeah, it's definitely creating, right? And it's plus being consistent, because I don't think you've stopped tweeting since 2020, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, consistency is the foundation of everything. And people, like, this is a common trope. It's true though. Like you just have to keep showing up, and you have to not be so short term that you get discouraged when things don't work, because there are going to be just like valleys where for a long period of time, and like I'm not talking like 1 or 2 posts, like you might go 3 months where like your open rates are really low on a newsletter and you don't know why, or like your engagement's really far down, and you like the people that aren't going to make it are the people that you then see posting like the algorithms changed and it's so bad and like they need to change it back, Elon Musk ruining Twitter. And the really great people, like I had lunch with Mark Manson, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Amazing guy. He's been around for 20 years, right? Like he's writing Facebook blogs back in the day. He's created all these things. And his whole thing is like, yeah, the algorithms change. Like that's part of the game. That's why it's hard to be here for 20 years. You just have to figure it out. Like you're sitting around complaining about it and like getting down during those valleys versus like figuring out, okay, what works? Like how do I operate at the intersection of what I like and what's working in the algorithm today, rather than just sitting around being like, oh, the thing's changed. This is crap. Elon Musk, change it back.
And how is your content team structured right now, and how much are you spending roughly, you think, per month?
So my actual team is me. And then most of like team, if you think about it, is around video stuff. So I have like, anytime I go on a podcast, I get the raw footage. There's an agency that I own that also does all the chopping up of clips and creates all the stuff for me, posts. I actually do all the posting myself, because I like to try to like figure out the platforms and how they work and what works and what doesn't. But that's where I get all my clips from. Prior to owning these businesses, I was probably spending about like $20K a month across video editing stuff, newsletter growth, like back-end operations on the newsletter. I'm trying to think what else would have fallen into that, like, kind of chief of staff type services that were outsourced. I now have like one chief of staff who's sort of like my main point person that kind of like keeps the trains running on time with everything. It allows me to kind of like sit in the clouds and just focus on the creative stuff.
The chief of staff thing is one thing I've been championing all my founder friends. It's like, dude, this is the best thing ever. I read this book, The Great CEO Within. So, this is a couple years ago, but Matt Moshari, the guy that, you know, coaches Naval and like, Sam Altman or whatever, he's like, I'm not going to coach you unless you have a chief of staff. And then he has this whole write-up and I'm like, oh, you know what? We'll just give it a shot. And so it's been the most liberating thing for me to have one. And it's just like, it's like a duplicate version of me because she sits in all my meetings. She sees all my patterns, right? And so can you talk about like how it's structured for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. It's been an enormous unlock for my life. And yeah, he has a very different skill set than me, which is like he is unbelievably operationally focused and very organized. I am like scattered and like to be creative, and I like to be able to float around things and focus on the strategy more and the vision and less on like the Notion, database, and less on the like making sure we're delivering the things we need to for our different companies. And, now that the ecosystem has grown, I've got like this holding company that has 10 or so businesses in it. I've got my venture fund. I've got all the content stuff, and all of those things have different needs and different stuff going on. And if it was me having to like have my brain context switching, it would be really hard for me to do the creative stuff well. Yep. And so his role is like, make it so that I don't have to context switch. Like he manages it. We kind of centralize it all into like one little like, sort of to-do list where it's like things that I actually have to do that I know I can process during a, fixed period of time. And then I get to focus and float in the clouds on the things that I'm really good at.
And what's like your communication cadence with your chief of staff?
It's pretty constant. I mean, it's like text. I suck at like Slack and all those things. So it's text is like best for me on all those things. I hate emailing. I got like PTSD from the emailing days in my private equity time. So I'm like I'm probably like, my average response time is probably like a week on emails.
So you have so much PTSD.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I just get too many emails now too. You probably know this, but like as you increase in your reach, prominence, like perceived level of success, whatever it is, the amount of people that like want things from you increases. It's really hard to sort of triage that and manage all of that. And so like I'm just bad now with email just because my email inbox is a bit of a mess. I have an EA that helps a lot with that, but it's still overwhelming.
You have this creator-led agency where you guys will cut up clips, right? I think it was called Viral Cuts, correct? I tried it for a little bit. My take on this one is I think most of them are going to go out of business. Mm-hmm. And my reason...
I think so too, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't think ours is going to go out of business. But
well, I think, okay, so for you, for example, like, you've been in PE, like you jumping around, like I think there's a good strategic brain and like you don't want to tarnish your name, right? So I think yours is going to be fine. Yeah. I think the other ones, because they're going to have like an influx of customers and there's going to be a big operational issue and the churn's going to go through the roof.
So what you're referring to is like a broader holding company called Assembly, partnered with a good friend of mine who's built and sold to 8-figure agencies in the past. He's a laser focused operator, right? I'm not. I have the network and the connections and the partnerships and the strategy. So we have a lot of complementarity in our skill sets, which is great. But the view from us was, you can basically leverage creators as distribution when there's product audience fit. So the best example, you reference Viral Cuts, which is with Cody Sanchez and Sam Parr. They do a lot of clips. Cody in particular has built an enormous audience off of doing clips. What we've learned, by the way, is like, you're actually not a good customer. The best customer is a business that is looking to like do tons of video clips and ads versus creators who tend to be like, just like shorter term customers in general, because if it's like working or not working, and the price point, not for you because you have businesses, but like the price point is significant. It's $5,000 to $10,000 a month. A business can easily invest that in doing more direct response ads and doing more brand ads and all those things. And so the vast majority of that business, which is now multi 7-figure run rate business, is going to be B2B. It's businesses on the other end. The best example of this is like Hey Friends with Ali Abdallah, our shared friend, where Ali had this amazing course, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy that he had built, incredible audience around, helping YouTubers build their YouTube presence. Well, like for me, I could take that course, but I don't want to go edit YouTube videos. I don't have time for that. I'm not good at that. It's not my skill set. I want someone to just do it for me. And I'm happy to pay. And there's tons of people and businesses that are like that, where they want the Ali editing, quality and style and all of the like strategy and thumbnails and all of those things, but they don't want to actually do it. And so for Ali to launch this like premium offering that actually does it for you makes a ton of sense, and there's a ton of leads, to your point. Now, the real devil is in the details of how you actually service with quality those leads. That is going to be the thing that makes most of these businesses go belly up. I tweeted this today that like services businesses sound great because you make cash from day one. The reality is building like a tiny little services business is quite easy. Like if you have 5 clients for a YouTube business like that, charging 10 grand a month, it's just you that runs that, you're making 50 grand a month, you feel rich, that's a great little business.
Yeah.
Taking that business to where it's doing 500K a month is miserable and extraordinarily difficult and requires like a very specific set of skills. I mean, now with these video-based businesses, we have like 100 employees and you're having to manage all of these different editors, and you need PMs and you need a GM at different business units. That's like, all of a sudden you're talking about like, you need a culture and you need, HR policies and you need company offsites. Like that's a real business at that point. And so that's why I agree with you that I think most of these like, sort of fly-by-night creator-led agencies that are getting started, or creator-led services businesses that are getting started, are going to have a really tough time because they don't have the actual business background or the business partner that is actually going to understand how to like navigate the inevitable enormous challenges that come with these businesses.
I love it.
Yeah.
Your business partner is Hunter, correct?
Yeah.
Seems like a really smart guy, and he seems credible. For people looking to do this, they're like, oh, okay, I don't want to operate. I want to become a creator like Sahil, right? But I need to find a good operator. How did you find Hunter?
Through my like friend groups and network. If I have one thing about me that is actually truly unique, it's my network of friends and people and the people I have access to, and it compounds, and it's really hard to compete with at some point because of the way it compounds. Like the people that I feel like I can reach out to, text, talk to. And so like Hunter, I met through several common friends. We became friends over a period of a couple of years, spent a bunch of time together talking business stuff when we weren't working together. And then because he was working on his other thing that he had scaled up and was deciding how to sell it or what to do with it, I was working on all my stuff and growing my platform. And then basically we both had the idea at the same time, and we were just on one of our like, we would do regular jam sessions where we would just chat about business stuff. And I was like, hey, I have an idea for you. He was like, I have an idea for you. And we both pitched each other the exact same idea. So we were like, oh, we should go do this.